Hello and welcome to the webinar. We are right at the top of the hour. We want to be cognizant of your time, and we thank you all so much for joining us for this Behind the Sign, which is presented by Better Business Bureau. It's a monthly webinar series, and during these monthly series, we're going to work to tackle some of the topics that are facing small business. Specifically, how do we help businesses be better businesses? I'm your host, Dale Dixon. I am the Chief Innovation Officer for Better Business Bureau Great West and Pacific. And today we're really excited for the first in the series, Marketing Made Easy, 5 simple strategies to get more customers. And you know that just about every business starts small, works to grow just as fast as possible, and they don't have to stay small. Digital marketing is what businesses depend on to achieve the growth that they are seeking and to really connect with customers in new ways. And the good news is it's not very hard to do when you know what to do. Many of the digital marketing tools that you are using right now can help extend your reach and boost your business. You may just need to update the approach. I call it just the little tweaks that we make along the way. And our guest expert today, Steve Strauss, is going to teach us how to do exactly that. I want to introduce Steve soon, but first I'd like to go over just a few housekeeping items that are going to help all of us. I want to extend a very special thank you to our BBB accredited businesses. These businesses, those businesses, you've joined us, you have taken a pledge to uphold to act with integrity and to uphold Better Business Bureau's standards for trust. Because of that, we are committed to supporting you in that endeavor and to help make this marketplace, our communities, a more trustworthy place to do business. I'd also like to mention that you will be able to rewatch today's webinar. We're going to send an email to you with a link to the recording. You can share it with your team, share it with other businesses that you believe this would find helpful. And a final reminder that you would take an opportunity and ask a question. We're going to hold space at the end of this webinar, about 15 minutes, to answer those questions. And if you look on the right side of your screen, you'll see a way for you to submit those questions in a dialog box. We'll be watching for those, and we will compile those and work with Steve to answer those questions at the end of the webinar. Now that that's all taken care of, I would love to introduce our guest today and today's speaker, often called America's leading small business expert. Steve Strauss is a best-selling author, an attorney, and USA Today columnist whose content and media appearances reach millions. He's also the author of 17 books, including the Small Business Bible. Steve speaks across the country and around the globe, is often tapped to be a spokesperson and influencer for companies like Bank of America and Microsoft. He also sits on advisory boards for the World Entrepreneurship Forum, SCORE, and P&G. His company, Strauss Group International, creates cutting-edge content for Fortune 500 companies down to small chambers of commerce. His latest venture is the tech startup, theselfemployed.com. Steve, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to turn the stage over to you.
Thank you, Dale. Great to see you and great to be here and be with everybody and with my friends in the BBB. And I want to thank you for joining me and us today and taking time out of your busy day to be here, because that's not always easy, right? So let me pull up my deck and we can get going here. And there we go. So there I am, and you can see on the left is my latest book, Your Small Business Boom. And it's very appropriate that we're talking about digital marketing today, Marketing Made Easy, 5 simple strategies to get more customers, because that's essentially what that book was about. During COVID, my publisher came to me and said, "Hey, Steve, everything has changed. Well, let's come up with a book about how to grow your business." And so that's what we did. And what we're going to talk about today are some really simple things you can do, but maybe a little different and unexpected ways that you can grow your business. And what I like to look at are ways to grow your business that don't cost a lot of money, that don't take a lot of time, but which have big impact, right? So that's what we want, and that's what sounds good. I am reminded of the great quote. I'm sure we've all seen it from Wayne Gretzky. I skate to where the puck is going to be, not to where the puck has been. And that's what we're going to talk about today. These 5 different ideas is where the puck is going. And I call it the digital divide. Look, I have a small business. I create content. I used to be, as Dale mentioned, a lawyer, although I came to my senses many years ago and I don't practice anymore. And these days I have a content business. I create content for organizations like the BBB and for large corporations and things like that. And that is being on part of the digital divide. So many times small businesses learn a trick, they learn a marketing trick and they use it. And I'm as guilty of this as anybody else. And they, kind of beat it into the ground. And so today we're going to come up with some different ideas that will allow you to have new and different people notice your business. Because if you keep doing the same thing you've always been doing, then the same people generally are going to see your business and your business is going to be kind of stuck where it is. But if you try some of these different ideas that we're going to be sharing, then you're going to get new eyeballs and new ideas and new people paying attention to your business. And when that happens, well, then your business can grow to a new level. And that's what we like. So the first thing I want you to notice is that we want to go to where the eyeballs are, right? Where are people paying attention? Well, of course, that is, especially since 2020, online. Now, look, that's been the trend for a long time, but the pandemic really accelerated this. And, online sales just in the last 12 months grew 36%. And look at this bottom quote. In 2022, 70% of consumers said they prefer shopping online. Only 41% said that pre-pandemic. So that's the digital divide. We're going to be on the right side of that and try some new things. Here are the 5 things we're going to talk about. One is just the idea as an essence of creating a community, a tribe of friends, fans, followers, people who know and love your business, because that core can then create a lot of different effects. Number 2, we're going to reach thousands with the idea of using a webinar like this one. 3, the power of video. In this day and age, this YouTube era that we're living in, if you're not using video to promote your business, I think you're missing a huge opportunity, because that is what people pay attention to. I mean, how many have you watched video today? In fact, we're watching video today, right? This is a live streaming video, but again, this is a type of video. So that's what small businesses, that's what you and I need to do. We're going to talk about the ability to make your own podcast and how easy that is. And then finally, we'll wrap up on digital ads. So the idea of video and podcasting and webinars are to allow you to put yourself and your business in front of a whole new group of people and to be seen as an expert and to create a brand for your business. Because what do we know? People pay more for brands, for something they know. If you go to the market and you're going to buy some cereal, are you going to buy Cheerios, or are you going to buy the white label oat brand? Well, you're going to probably buy Cheerios because you like to buy a brand, just like we all like to buy brands. So the idea here today is to start to establish the branding of your business, the branding of you as an expert, and then you're going to be able to charge more. People are going to choose you easier. And those are all things that we like. So the strategy, the first one is to create a loyal community of friends, fans, and followers and customers. On the left is Seth Godin, famous marketer. On the right is this guy named Joel Comm, who I know. And I have Joel there because I've never met anyone who's able to create a tribe. No matter what he does, it becomes instantly big. So I want to go over why having a tribe of people is important and how then you can use that to grow into these other ideas. There is a very famous online essay by a guy named Kevin Kelly. And he said, 1,000 true fans is all you need. 1,000. Okay. And I actually have it. And there's my book. And I'm not going to read too much, but I do want to read part of this because it's so interesting. He says, to be successful as a creator, as a small business person, you do not need millions. You don't need millions of dollars or millions of customers or millions of clients or millions of fans. Now, isn't that refreshing? to make a living as a craftsperson, photographer, freelancer, small business person, solopreneur, app maker, all you really need are 1,000 true fans, or a couple thousand even. 1,000 customers is a whole lot more feasible to aim for than 1,000,000 fans. Millions of paying fans is not realistic for most people to shoot for, but 1,000 is doable. If you add one new fan a day, you'll have 1,000 in a couple of years. Then the takeaway is having 1,000 who really believe in you are going to make a huge difference. Because I mean, even just think about it. If you have 1,000 people who like your business and you got them to pay you $1 a year, you've just had a 6-figure year. That's $100,000 just right there. So this idea of having a tribe really makes a difference. Seth Godin first learned of it when he was working in his first job for a company called Spinnaker. And Spinnaker would buy stories and turn them into software tales. And it was his job to turn some of these stories into games. His problem was, at that time, he only was given a very small budget and just a couple of part-time engineers, and he really couldn't do his job well. And he thought, well, if I could create some fans in the business, a tribe in the business, that might make a difference. So he started putting out a newsletter about what his team is doing and how interesting it is and how fun it is. And soon people wanted to be part of this passionate guy who's making software. And more engineers joined and more engineers joined. And then before he knew it, he had a giant department. And it all came about because he created a group of people who really loved him and loved what he did. The same thing is true of this guy, Joel Comm. And I have Joel Comm here because I asked him once, how do you create a tribe out of nothing? Let's say somebody doesn't have a tribe or doesn't have a loyal following. He said, you just start. You start brick by brick, thing by thing. You start to do something and you put it out there. And it doesn't have to be perfect and you don't have to know everything. You just start to work and put it out there. And this is what I would emphasize. And that is, so many of us overthink things, right? I do that a lot. What about underthinking it? Underthink it and get it done. So the idea is just start to put out some kind of product. If it's going to be the webinar that we're talking about or a podcast, don't be intimidated. What I'm telling you is get started and it'll grow on its own and get bigger and bigger. And then you want to create an opt-in list. So, here's why. So 1,000 true fans is great. But if you can get 5,000 people onto your list, if you can get 10,000 people onto your list, though, even those are very, very doable numbers. But why would you want to create a list? Let's say you have an e-newsletter, or let's say you have a website and you do have video on your website. People are going to opt in to watch the video, or they're going to opt in to comment on the video, or to opt in to read the article. All these options are super valuable. Why? Because they're permission. It's called permission-based marketing. This is why I want you to think about how you could start to create a bigger list. Because look, in most marketing, you're kind of bugging somebody. You're interfering with their space and you're saying, hey, pay attention to me. But when someone gives you their email address and they opt into whatever it is you're offering for free, they're giving you permission to contact them again. They don't not want to hear from you. They do want to hear from you. Now, how cool is that? So it's number one, and it's number one for a reason. It's permission to contact people. The people who've asked you to engage with them. These are the kind of people who become a tribe, who become your loyal followers that we were talking about originally, and they are most likely to end up buying from you. It's also very cost effective to send out an e-newsletter on a regular basis. It doesn't cost you hardly anything, but it's going to have a profound effect, and people are going to like it. They're going to read it. They're going to hear from you. And if you give value and then more value and more value, and you don't just send out stuff to talk about your business, but you're trying to help this group of people that you're garnering, then they're really going to like you. And then when the time comes that you're having a sale, let's say you've made a list of 5,000 people and you want to let them know you have a sale, that is 5,000 people who want to hear from you, who open your email, and all of a sudden they notice, oh, he's having a sale. So that's kind of an amazing thing. People who are in the online marketing world, they say, and this is the last bullet right there, the money is in the list. The money is in the list. Having a list of people who like you, who have given permission for you to contact them, who want to hear from you, and who you give value to, that is creating an online community that can really make a difference. So how do you build this opt-in list of 1,000 and then 5,000 and then 10,000? My own list has over 20,000 people, and I don't bug the people who are on my list, but I always try and send them interesting small business stuff, and they like that, right? So the first thing you gotta do is create what is called a lead magnet. This is something that attracts people. That's the magnet part of it, right? And it leads to leads. So it is a lead magnet. Maybe it's a how-to manual, or it's a great e-newsletter. You could have a contest. You could have certain kind of content. What about writing an ebook in your area of specialty, and you give the ebook away for free? So that is the idea. If you can create some great lead magnet that you give away for free, people are going to like it and they're going to opt in, meaning they're going to give you their email address. And as a result of that, you're going to grow your list and they're going to love what they're hearing, right? I mean, this is not the best slide, but you can kind of see it. There are so many different ways that you could grow your list. You could have a video series. You could create a series of templates. You could do webinars, and we're going to talk about that in more detail. You could have an email contest. You could have a free workshop. The idea is make it valuable, make it something that your customers would really be interested in, and give it away for free. If you do those three things, you're going to get people to opt in. And once they opt in and you start to communicate with them, then you're going to have a group of people who want to hear from you. And that is the core of this whole strategy that we're talking about. And super important, the idea is don't let these people just sit there. If you're going to go to the effort of creating an e-newsletter or creating an opt-in list, you don't just let that list sit there. What you have to do is communicate with them. And you want to communicate with them in your own voice. You want to talk like you. We don't need gobbledygook. You don't need jargon. You don't need corporate speak. You want, in fact, the opposite. And then if you, on a regular basis, contact these people, let them know who you are, share some valuable information, that's going to make the difference. That's going to grow your list, and you're going to be really happy that you did. Okay, so once you have this core of a list, then you want to think about how can you get your name and brand and business out there in such a way that people pay attention to you. Because look, we are living in the era of short attention span theater. It's very hard to get someone's attention online, but the different tactics I'm talking about today are ways to do that. And this second strategy number 2, create your own webinar. That is a huge one. Now, look what we're doing here today. If I do my job right, I have your attention for 45 minutes. Now, think about that. Online, how often can you get someone's attention for 45 minutes? Rarely. It's a real hard thing to do. But here, with this idea of doing a webinar, of you becoming a webinar host and doing webinars for your tribe and your group and your community, all of a sudden, you are going to become a better known brand. So that's why my first bullet point there is webinars are brandtastic, because it establishes you and your business as someone to pay attention to, and as someone who's doing something different. Look at all your competitors can do pay-per-click ads if they want, or however they get their business. But if you're doing the webinars, you are a step above. You are the expert. You are seen as someone special. And that's the kind of person that people want to do business with and pay attention to and give their money to and work with. Webinars have huge reach in 2 ways. First, as we're seeing here today, there's a live event and getting people to come pay attention to you live. So you got to create a webinar, and we'll get into this in a second, that is interesting to people and they want to hear more and you have some valuable information. But then it's also recorded, and right, the BBB is smartly recording this webinar, and it's going to be on the website. And for those people who didn't see it live today, they're going to be able to go watch it on the website. So not only if you do a webinar, are you able to attract people and get their attention and talk to them for 45 minutes, but then you're creating some valuable content that's going to sit on your website that people are going to come to. So it's a double win that way as well. The content you're sharing, if you do it right, is substantive. And again, this is another way to grow your list, because to get to watch the webinar, someone is going to opt in, and they're opting in for the same reason I have mentioned several times now, and that is they want to hear from you. Right? You've opted into the BBB because the BBB has said we're working with Steve, and we think Steve has something good to say to you and to help you with, and so that's why you're here. And so that's a great strategy. We're seeing it work here in action today. Well, let's make it work for you as well. So how would you do a webinar? Let's say you wanted to do a webinar. All right, well, I'll go over a couple more benefits. Right, so it's real-time audio and video, as I said. You can prepare your slides and show your slides. You can add in surveys and polls. And it's, as I said, great for thought leadership. So these are all, the things I mentioned that are all valuable, and they can all really work, pretty darn well. So how do you become a webinar host? How would you do it? Well, first is you have to decide on a topic, whatever it is that you do that you think your audience, your market would be interested in. So there's a topic, and then you narrow it down. Then you have to find a host for the webinar. This is the actual, right? We're going to get into the weeds a little bit right now. These are the actual things you need to do to create a webinar. You would come up with an idea for a webinar. So, we'll just use this webinar as an example. I said, I went back and forth with my friends at the BBB and trying to figure out what would best serve our audience. And we decided, well, how about some digital marketing, some new strategic, some new creative and strategic digital marketing ideas. So that's our topic. So then you have to find a host, someone that will host the webinar. And there's all sorts of good companies that do it. ReadyTalk is one. GoToWebinar is a well-known one. Zoom, we all Zoomed for a couple years in a row. Zoho Meeting, Webinar Jam on 24. There's all sorts of good ones. So that's it. You would find a webinar company, and then you have to prepare your deck. You want to prepare your PowerPoint. Or if you're going to have a webinar where you're going to have guests, you're going to need to find guests. Or if you're going to have a webinar where you're going to present videos, then you need to get the videos together. Whatever it is, you need to prepare all of that content and then put it on to the platform, do a couple of practices, and then you have to market your webinar, and then you have to market it some more, and then you have to market it some more, especially as you're beginning this process when people don't know to expect this from you. But boy, you're going to surprise them, and you're going to show them that there's more to you than there is to you, to quote the producers, right? And wow, this is kind of interesting. This is a great way to really showcase what you and your business can do in a unique and different and powerful way. Look, I often say that being in business for yourself is kind of like being alone in a dark room. You know you are there, but no one else does. So you have to turn on the light. And how do you turn on the light? Well, you turn on the light by your marketing. And in this case, by your webinar. The only way people are going to learn about your webinar is if you market it. If it's part of your newsletter, if it's part of your email, it's on your website, it's in your social, it's in your store. If you have a store, you really promote it and promote it and promote it. And then you're going to get the great value out of it that I talked about earlier. One step beyond a webinar is actually doing a whole course. And this is not only a way to get your name out there, but it's actually a way to generate revenue. So if you're interested in thought leadership or growing your business or scaling your business, you can create a course. And just as there are webinar companies, there are course creation companies. Thinkific is one. Teachable is one. I've got a list right there. Kajabi is one. And you could create a 3-hour course on whatever it is. Maybe it's plumbing. Maybe you're a plumber and you got some great plumbing tips and you want to teach people, other plumbers, about something you know how to do. You could create a course using one of these platforms, and then people buy it. It's not something you give away for free as you might with a webinar or a podcast, but with a course, you can actually create a course, create a price point, market it again, and then instead of just one webinar, it's a 4-hour event that people can either do it as you drop it, or you drop the whole thing at once and they can do it on their own, however it might work. But a course really helps establish you as a thought leader, because if you are, again, the one teaching the course and it's your syllabus and it's your course, and maybe you're interviewing people as part of the course, this is a great way to really establish you as someone different. And it's a digital idea, right? Because where are the eyeballs? What's the digital divide? People do physical events, and everyone's going back to doing physical events. But here we are today doing an online event, doing a digital event. This is where the eyeballs are. And if this is where the eyeballs are, this is where your business needs to be. So when you look for a company to do a course with, if it's interesting to you, you want to look for ease of use, for customization, that they really help their students, and that they have the marketing tools to help you market the business, because the same thing applies as it does with the webinar, which is market your course and then market it some more, and then market it some more. All right, so strategy number 3. I mentioned as we started video and how important video is. Video is important because this is what people are paying attention to these days. They're paying attention to video online. I mean, some of these statistics are just really incredible. 85% of people say that videos help them better connect with a brand. 44% say that they are more likely to buy a product after watching a video about it. And 81% say video is the most preferred type of content on their social media pages. And 88% spend more time on a site with video. So video. Now, the good news is it's not hard these days to make a video, right? We all have a video camera in our pocket. Now, you could make a more formal video with lights and ring lights and microphones. Absolutely. And that's another way to go. But if you want to just make some YouTube videos, boy, that is what works. And that is what people are going to pay attention to. And you know who else pays attention to it aside from your customers and aside from people coming to your website and aside from people who are coming to your social media? Like, if you want people to come to your social media page and pay attention to it, make some videos, and they're going to do that. If you just have written content, not so much. Who else loves it is Google. Look at number 3 right there. Video ranks higher. You have a 53 times better chance of landing on the first page of Google if your page contains video. I'm just going to say it again. You have a 53 times better chance of landing on the first page of Google if your page contains a video. Now, that's amazing. Look, Google is the gold standard of marketing these days. If you can have a web page, if you can have an e-commerce page that lands on the top of Google, well, you've hit a home run. Not easy to do. This is done by what is called search engine optimization, SEO. And the way SEO works is Google analyzes all of your pages and my pages and your social sites. And when someone types in a query, if Google decides that your page answers that query best, it is going to list your page higher on the search results. So, and a high search result is automatic credibility. I mean, what you really want are people to find you. Look, there's 2 ways to get businesses, to get attention and to get customers. Either you find them or they find you. The optimum way is if they find you. And that's what all of these different techniques I'm talking to you about today are, whether it's a webinar or a podcast, which we're going to talk about in a second, or an e-newsletter. You're trying to put your name out there in such a way that you're creating a name, some thought leadership, a brand, a digital presence that people pay attention to, that they notice. It's not just the same old thing. And if they notice, then they're going to come find you. And if they come find you, they're going to want to work with you. So video is a key instrument in that strategy. Also, video is very shareable. If you want to create a social media page that gets attention, that people like, that they share the content on your social media page, well, you have to have video. Number one these days is, say it with me, TikTok. I mean, for video, TikTok is it. I interviewed recently the vice president of small business for TikTok. And what's interesting is a statistic she shared with me, which is of all the social media platforms, TikTok has the highest percentage of makers who talk up TikTok as a tool to other small businesses. So the word of mouth among small businesses is TikTok works to grow your business. If you create some great videos, you don't have to go viral necessarily. Even TikTok ads are amazing, but creating some TikTok content, some video content that way, of course you can use it on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, LinkedIn, however else you want to use it. What works though is having video because people share video. And when people share video, what is that? That's word of mouth. We all know that word of mouth advertising is the best advertising. My sweet dad had one carpet store in Southern California, and he turned it into 20 carpet stores, became the biggest carpet chain in all of California back in the day. And then at the end of his career, he went back to one giant warehouse, and he had done all sorts of marketing, sidewalk sales and television commercials. And if he would, if he was with us today, he would try all these things that I'm sharing with you today. But at the end of his career, and in the back of his giant carpet warehouse, what did he have? He had a giant banner, and it said, "Our word of mouth advertising starts with you." Dad knew that of everything he had ever done, word of mouth was the most powerful thing he could use to get people to pay attention and want to go and buy from him and know about his business. Well, today, word of mouth is word of click. When someone forwards your e-newsletter, that's word of click. That's word of mouth. When someone shares your video, that's word of mouth. They're saying, hey, this is really cool. I think you should know about it. And if it's your video and you're branded on the video and so some content marketing and it links back to your website somehow, well, heck, you just hit a home run. That's what we want from our videos and from our marketing. So I'm going to get into the nitty gritty again here for a second. And, what kind of equipment do you need to create some great video? Well, on the right is, you see one of those whiteboard videos. This is a site called Doodly, Doodly. And my daughter made that video. That's a whole video about, work from home that I did for one of my clients. And they're fun videos. They're entertaining. They're fun to look at. They're interesting. Very affordable. I think the Doodly cost me, $39 a month or something. And I had my daughter making my videos for me. So pretty affordable, pretty easy, and pretty, eye attractive. So you need a smartphone or a camera, of course, a microphone. If you're going to do a whiteboard video, you need something like Doodly. You're going to definitely want to have some good lighting. And if you're going to make some nice videos, you can just do a YouTube video with your camera. But if you have some nicer equipment, some better equipment, I think you're going to be happier with it because it's going to represent your business in a better way, right? Because what we're trying to do is create a brand, and part of your brand is what you put out there. So if your video is professional and it looks good and sounds good and it's well lit, okay, people are going to notice that. And again, conversely, if that's not true, they're going to notice that as well. If you want to learn how to make a great video, there at the very bottom, that bullet point, I mentioned MariSmith.com. Mari is a woman I know. I have no financial interest in what I'm telling you here right now. Just I know she knows video. She's called, quote, the queen of Facebook. And she has a great guide on her website about what kind of equipment you need to make some great videos and how do you set up your home office to create video, and maybe getting a ring light and maybe what kind of microphone to get. So MariSmith.com is a good resource for getting some good video information, right? And you're going to work from home and you're going to get the job done, just like my little video there says. And then what are you going to do? Where are you going to post your video? There's so many places to post it. Of course, on your own website. You can put it on YouTube, on Vimeo. You can put it on your social media. That's where people are going to share it. In your newsletter, if you want to get your newsletter opened, you want to get a higher open rate, it's called, on your newsletter, add video. Video is just as it helps websites get clicks, it helps newsletters get opens. And you can submit your video to other sites. I want to tell you the story of this woman here. She was a yoga teacher, right? As small as a small business can be, right? She had her own little home studio. Her name is Adrienne. So back in about 2012 or 2013, Adrienne decided she was going to try making some video. What do we talk about? Video. So, and she started posting her videos on YouTube, and she got a following. Yoga by Adrienne kind of became a thing, and it grew slowly, but it grew surely. And then, so up to about 2015, she had 100,000 subscribers. Now that's not a little bit. That's not a little bit. That's when I'm talking about creating a list. You have a list of 100,000 people who are watching your videos. One, they're going to know who you are, and two, you're going to get some advertising dollars, because the more eyeballs you can get online, the more you're going to be able to get advertisers who want to reach those eyeballs. And that started happening with Adrienne. But Adrienne and her partner thought there's got to be something that we're missing, because people are searching for yoga on YouTube, and we're getting some of them, but not all of them. And then, so her partner dug in, and what he found out was super interesting. He discovered that people who search for yoga on YouTube don't search for free yoga or how to do yoga. That's not their search terms. They search for yoga for weight loss, yoga with back pain, yoga for new moms, yoga if you're overweight. That's the kind of videos people were actually searching for. So, listening to her audience, Adrienne decided to make those videos. So she started cutting different videos with very specific topics, yoga for weight loss, yoga for neonatal, all that kind of stuff. All of a sudden, Adrienne had 1 million subscribers, and then COVID hit. Everyone's online. Everyone found Adrienne. She had got up to 10 million subscribers. She did this as a small business like you, as a small business like me, doing her little thing, creating video, posting video, and then learning really how to do it right. And she makes, a substantial 7-figure income right now by posting her videos on YouTube. So look if Adrienne can do it, why can't we do it? Well, we can. That's why we're here today. All right. Number 4 out of my 5 strategies is launch your own podcast. This is a guy, here's the gold standard for podcasting. There's a guy named John Lee Dumas. And I was on John's show once, and I've interviewed him for my books and different things. I've gotten to know the guy. He was an Iraq War veteran, came back, tried law school, didn't fit him, tried doing a startup, didn't fit him, really was trying to figure out what he was going to do with his life. And one thing he knew was he really loved entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship. And this is about a decade ago, right? Again, 2012, kind of the same time Adrienne had started. And he thought, well, what if I did a podcast? And podcasting was very new at that time. And not only am I going to do a podcast, but I'm going to do a podcast about entrepreneurs. So, think about it for you. What kind of podcast could you do that's interesting to you, that would interest your audience, that would grow your name, that would grow your brand? That's what John did. And he said, well, I love entrepreneurs. And his difference was, he said, I'm going to do a daily show about entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship. Now that was unique and that was different. So he created this show called Entrepreneurs on Fire. He started with no listeners. He started with no followers. He started with no list. Okay. These days, he has 1 million people downloading his podcast a decade later every week. And what's really interesting about his website, and I encourage you to go after this webinar, I encourage you to go check it out. Entrepreneur on Fire, Entrepreneurs on Fire. Here on the upper right, you can see there's a number, 245,799. John has on his website how much money he makes every month. And not only how much money does his show make, but how he makes it, the breakdown of the different things he does. Part of it's advertising revenue on the podcast. Some of it is sponsorships. Some of it is affiliate marketing. Some of it is he has his own course. All the things I'm talking about today, right? Some of it's webinar money. And then every month he has a running total database of how much money he's making, obviously very transparent, and how he's making it. Super interesting. So John started a podcast from nothing, and he's making $1 million a year doing it. Again, and what now? He's a well-known guy in the field. He's established himself as an expert, as a name, as a brand, and people pay a lot of money, to get to advertise with him and work with him. So podcasts are popular. Now, does it seem like everyone these days has a podcast? Yes, it kind of does seem like everyone these days has a podcast, but they're financially lucrative. They're great for branding. It makes you the expert. And, they're really, this is also very nice, easy and affordable to create. So if you have a unique take, a unique skill, a unique piece of knowledge that you want to share, that you think is going to be interesting, heck, when I did a podcast for 7 or 8 years, and it was very easy. You can either record, I'm going to get it to this on the next slide. You can record it on your own, or you can go into a studio. I found myself a nice little studio in my town, great engineer. It was very affordable, and we would record the podcast. He would do all the post-production, make it sound really beautiful. He'd put it up on Stitcher. He'd put it up on iTunes, things like that. So I did the content. He did the tech. Together we had a really valuable podcast, and I ended up sponsoring it with Microsoft became a sponsor, and Zen Business became a sponsor. So, wow, that was pretty cool. And that was, again, out of nothing too. So the steps to take are decide on a topic, decide on a format. Is it going to be an interview show? Are you going to have features? Are you going to have some kind of bits? Are you going to have commercials, bumper music? You got to think it through like it's almost like a radio show. Then you're going to decide on whether you're going to be the host or you're going to have a co-host. And then the frequency, at least once a week is what I would tell you, because you want people to get into the habit of listening to your podcast. Here's the nitty gritty one more time. You could record it on your own. And here's in the second bullet point there, some places that you can do that with. That's GarageBand on a Mac, Adobe Audition, and Audacity are all ways that you can record your podcast on your own. Or you can do what I did, which is work with an engineer. If you want to get guests for your show, either you're going to know some in your industry or Matchmaker.fm. Haro is called Help a Reporter Out. Haro.com is a great place. You can say, hey, I've got a new show and I need a guest who can talk about plumbing, right? And write me. And you're going to get a ton of people who are going to want to be on your show. And then you have to post your show when it's done to what are called podcatchers. So Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, TuneIn, all of those kind of things are where the show goes. Podcasting, a great way to get your name, brand out there. And look, if you're hosting the show, you got to be the expert. And when you're the expert, what do we know? Everyone's going to love you. So another way to get on the right side of the digital divide and doing what people are doing these days, which is they're listening to podcasts, they're watching webinars, they're watching videos. Well, we're going to create that kind of content for our small business and get people to pay attention to us. So the bad news about a podcast is, there is a lot of competition, but that's good news because it means they are popular. So you get some guests, and another way to get a guest is to become a guest, go on other shows, and those people are going to come on to your show. You put it on your social, all those things are what works. And then finally, let's get into the last strategy number 5, and that is placing affordable digital ads out there so people will click on it and find you. This is right. It's called pay per click. It used to be like when I first opened my law practice, I advertised in the newspaper. I tried having a cable TV ad, which was a big waste of a lot of money. Right. But these days, how do people advertise? How do I market? What do? You have pay per click. So what's great about it is it used to be that if you put an ad in a newspaper or on the radio, whatever, you're paying for a bunch of people to notice it who are never going to be interested in what it is you're selling. But with a pay per click ad, you put a little ad out there, and if someone notices it and likes it and clicks on it, that's the only time you pay for it. So it's very specific and they're very warm leads. So it's a very cost-effective way to get a very targeted audience. You can get very measurable results and you're going to reach the right audience, because if you put your pay-per-click ad on the right platform and it being the right ad, the people who find it are going to be people who are most interested in what it is you're selling, and they're going to click over to your website and you've got a warm lead. How do you do it? There's all sorts of places that you can place these ads, as you well know: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, Google, Bing as an alternative to Google, or specialized platforms like Yelp or Etsy, or maybe industry-related websites, related to your industry. There's what you want to think about are, where are the people that you want to attract? Where are they online? So it's not whether you like Facebook or not. It's whether your customers like Facebook or not. It's not whether you like TikTok or not. It's whether your customers do. And wherever your customers are, wherever those eyeballs are where you need to be. And if you could create a pay-per-click ad, a PPC ad, put it on those websites, your people are going to see it. They're going to notice it. If it's the right ad, they're going to click on it. They're going to find you. You're going to get a sale. So how do you launch a simple PPC, pay-per-click ad campaign? Maybe you've never done it before, you haven't done it in a long time. Well, you want to define your goals. There's two kinds of ads you can have. One is a branding ad, and one is a get a sale right now ad. And they do different things. If you've done any advertising, you know this. A branding ad is you want to just get your name out there and get people to pay attention to it. So when the time comes that their water heater breaks down, they're thinking of the water heater king, because you've advertised that you're the water heater king for a year and people have noticed it. Or if you want to add, a sale right now, then you have a sale. The water heater king is having a sale on new water heaters. That gets attention. So you have to define your goals. You have to define who your target audience is. You create an ad with using keywords and key phrases that are most likely people are going to search for, and those are going to be part of your ad. And if that search and your ad had the same kind of words and the same intent, Google or Facebook or wherever it is going to present your ad to that person, and they're going to find you. It's really kind of neat. And if it's not working, what's great about pay-per-click ads is you can change it. You don't have to wait a month to see the results. You can see the results immediately, and you can tweak it. You can tweak the headline. You can tweak the call to action. You can tweak if there's a picture. You maybe tweak the graphic. You tweak it till it works. So that's also pretty darn cool. You will want to make sure you track your metrics, make sure it's working. You do it consistently. You market your business and market it some more and market it some more, right? To quote me, that's what works, because it takes 7-8 times for someone to hear something before they pay attention to it. And so they may need to see your ad several times before they do it. Also, one thing you might want to do is check out ChatGPT, right? These new online AI tools are really amazing. And one way to use them is with your marketing. So take your marketing, put it into a ChatGPT and say, you're a marketing expert. I want you to analyze my ad. Is this the right call to action? Is this a great headline? What might be a better key phrase? What are my keywords? Here's my demographic. And ChatGPT might rewrite your whole ad for you. And it's going to be done in a very well done way. So that's pretty cool. There's also all sorts of apps you can use to grow your business. I do some work with a company called Pinger, and they have this great app where if someone calls your business and you can't answer it, they get a text message in return. And then you can get into a text exchange. And text, as we all know, people respond to text way more than telephone calls these days. So there's all sorts of little tricks out there, things you can use to grow your business with your ads. So those are the 5 things. If you want to contact me, I'm happy to answer any questions after we get through the Q&A here. There's my email at strauss@mrallbiz.com. Find me on LinkedIn. Let's link up and become LinkedIn friends. And there's my website, planetsmallbusiness.com. So I did it almost in 45 minutes, Dale. Back to you.
You nailed it. Thank you so much. Lots of great
Right.
information there. And I want to dive into some of these questions that have come through. The first question that came through deals with generative AI, and specifically, boy, and the question just went away after we went through this. So I'm going to do this from memory, but
Yeah.
it referred back to your slide, the Wayne Gretzky slide of skating to the puck, and
Yeah.
taking into consideration how fast things are moving, and what's going on in the generative AI space, artificial intelligence space.
Right.
How do you foresee businesses using generative AI to create content? What does that look like? And I think
That's a really a great question. I'm going to answer it two ways. One, to create content, and the other to analyze your marketing and to use it for marketing. Personally, I've used it for both. So to create content, if you want to create content, and I've talked a lot today about creating great content, and you want content that people are going to be interested in and it's compelling and interesting, and it can do that. If you give Chat GPT or any of these other tools the right prompt, it's going to create some great content for you. What I've learned though is it's kind of only the first draft. That's how I think you should think of Chat GPT created content, AI generated content. It can give you a really good first draft, but then you have to give it your spin after you get that first draft, your take, because it's going to sound a little, once you read these articles a couple times, they have a tendency to all sound very similar. So you've got to give it the personal touch, because what do we have as small businesses that big businesses don't have? Well, we have the personal touch. A big business is a big giant corporation, kind of amorphous, and you can't really have an interesting personal relationship with it. But what we have, our superpower as a small business, is we're personal. We know your name. We've met your daughter. We know what you like to buy when you come to our store. Well, we got to use that. So if you're using AI to create your content, you're going away from what you're great at. So if you give it your own spin, then I think you really have a win, because it's fast and it's good and it's smart and it can create some really interesting ideas. And then you put your own spin on it. That's what works. I also want to suggest that, and this is one of the last things I said during my presentation, use it to analyze your marketing tools, because that's really one of the amazing ways to use AI these days. Take your PPC ad and see what it says, or take your e-newsletter, put it in there, say, please analyze my newsletter, make it snappier, make it more interesting, give me some facts I don't know, add it in, and it's going to produce some really great content that way that I think you can use. That's going to make your business a lot better and a lot sharper.
that was the other piece of the question.
Okay.
Where I lost the question was about the human content aspect. So I'm really glad that you addressed that, because I don't think the human aspect is going away, and
Right.
it's a fear factor there, but it really requires the human touch on that to make it really, really pop for people.
Absolutely.
So Kurt asks a question, and this came through during the podcast portion of your presentation. How do you find sponsors and advertisers?
Oh, so that's a really good question. There is a woman, her name is Linda Hollander, and she has a website called Sponsor Concierge. She has webinars on how to find sponsors. And so there's two ways to do it. Okay. One is you can buy a list of companies that sponsor. All companies have sponsorship. Most companies will have a sponsorship person or division, part of their marketing department, part of their PR department, something like that. So if you can get a hold of a list and get the right name of someone, then you would pitch them what it is you want to have them sponsor. I've done a lot of work with sponsorships. One of the amazing things about sponsors is that you don't even have to have something ready and up and running to get a sponsor. If you have a great idea and you can share it with a potential sponsor and say, let's work on this together. So I had an idea once for a website, and it became my site called The Self-Employed. And it was going to be a site for the self-employed, for the freelancer, things like that. And I found a sponsor who said, well, that's our next audience. Let's work on this site together. So before I even had the site up, I had a sponsor paying me money to build the website. So that's how sponsors can work if you find the right sponsor. So the first answer is if you can find a list of people who do sponsorships and that ties in with whatever your event or business or product is that needs a sponsor, that's one way to go. Or if you have a relationship with a corporation that's already in your business, you find out who the sponsorship person is in that corporation, because they'll have one. They'll have a division that works with people who do sponsors, and then you find out what it is. Now, the key to sponsorship is you've got to deliver an audience that they want to reach. If you can do that, then the sponsor is going to want to work with you. But they're not going to just give you money because they want to give you money. They want to give you money because they want to grow their business, just like you want to grow your business. And the only way to do that is to deliver results for them.
Has to match the message, and you have to have an audience.
That's right.
In order to do that. So the next question, also on the podcast vein, what kind of cost are we looking at to post a podcast online?
Nothing. It's free, right? If you have a show and you want to put it on Stitcher or you want to put it on iTunes, your initial show, you're going to have to jump through some hoops to get them to approve the show. That doesn't cost you anything. And then once you are approved, then it's just a matter of either you or your engineer posting it on the different sites.
So I know I've got a podcast. You said everybody's got a podcast. And it's a total of $12, and I think $12.99 a month to host it. And on one of the sites that you listed.
Right. So that's different, right? You have to have a host of the show, but then to if you're going to upload it doesn't cost anything, is what I was trying to say.
Yeah. So there needs to be that hosting component, but everything else, once you buy that equipment, and it's amazing what you can do just with the quality of a microphone,
right?
And some of the artificial intelligence tools that are available to clean up audio. You just upload your audio file into a product that Adobe has for free, and it will give you a cleaned up audio file in return. So there's a lot of.
Let me ask you, why do you have a podcast?
Because I'm a business leadership junkie, and I have aligned with some people who are really great thought leaders in that space, and we talk business leadership on a weekly basis. Yeah. So next question, with so many people and businesses leveraging these resources to scale, the key becomes one's ability to be unique. Any ideas or best practices on how businesses can have a unique digital presence?
So that's interesting. You really, everyone watching this today has something unique about their business, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. And Dale, you don't know what it is, but they know what it is. You have to have an X factor. That's what I call it. You have to have an X factor. And it's maybe whether it's you're faster or better, or you're more personal, or you have a better selection, or you're open later, or you stay open later, or, whatever it is, you got to find some little hook that's different and unique and special, because as the questioner just asked, and he's preaching to the choir, I always say you have to be different, unique, special, and better. Different, unique, special, and better. You have to do something different than everybody else. If you sound like everybody else, then you're going to sound like everybody else. If you can find that little hook, and I don't know what it is, but everyone knows what their little hook is. And it might be the littlest of little things, but if you double down on it, and you triple down on it, and you give people a reason to remember you because of that, and it's a cool, interesting little thing, you just go. It's like the headline of an article. You just want to get noticed. So you have to get noticed, and you get noticed by being a little different.
100%. So that covered all of the attendee questions. I've got two things that I want to return to with you because it really ties into Better Business Bureau's standards. And It's a bit of paradoxical thinking that you led us into in the course of your presentation. And one of Better Business Bureau's standards is transparency. And you touched on this with the conversation about John Lee Dumas and what he's done there. But that's really a big paradox for people to overcome and I don't know that we're recommending that you put your financials up on the screen, but to have a level of transparency in your business counters a lot of what people think. But it comes back to a conversation I had with one of these leadership experts who was in the room with the CEO of a company that we all know and we've all interacted with. And the CEO gave the next year's strategic plan to this friend of mine. And the friend said, "Do you need me to sign a NDA? What, I'm holding your plan for next year."
Right.
The CEO says, "You can go and publish this online. I could care less." Because it's about execution. And that always really stuck with me. So when we talk about transparency, I think it's one of those paradoxical pieces that we miss out on. And it's really about execution, and businesses succeed when they execute well and don't get worried about what they can keep secret.
I'm so with you on that. So as I mentioned, I used to be a lawyer, right? And so I get a lot of legal questions from friends, and especially the small business people are always worried about someone stealing their idea, right? No one's going to steal your idea, because it's all about what you just said, Dale. It's about execution. And if you're inspired by the idea, well, you're inspired by the idea, then you should be moving on it. Just because someone likes your idea doesn't mean they're going to take the time and the money and the effort and the resources to execute on your idea. So I think, of course, as I get why the person said, I don't need the NDA, because you know what? It's your passion that's going to carry you forward, and other people aren't going to have that. And so I agree with you. And to the extent you can be transparent, especially these days, people like seeing that. Younger people especially like seeing that. Younger consumers want to see that the companies that they're doing business with, that they're giving their money to, are transparent and have integrity and have some values. And it's not just a corporate money suck. So transparency is part of that.
And the last paradoxical point that you made was about giving info away. And you specifically mentioned a plumber, which brought to mind, we have a torch award we give out, and we identify those businesses that go above and beyond in setting a standard in their industry. And I was talking to a roofer who had received the award, and he was live streaming an event where we were giving one of the awards away. And I pulled him aside afterwards and I asked him about his YouTube channel and what he does. He was like, "Oh, I just turn my phone around on me anytime I think I have found something that will help somebody take care of their roof or
That's
better
awesome.
Understand their roof, so that if they ever need to call a roofer, they know the types of questions to ask." I see my job as continually helping my customers be smarter about their roofs. And I'll just go Facebook Live or YouTube Live, just set it up, turn the camera on, and just talk for even 30 seconds about what I've just seen. And he's amassed himself a massive following with that. So you challenged us at the beginning, don't overthink this. And it can be as simple as that, but being willing, paradoxically, to give away the information, because once again, I, as a homeowner, I'm not going to, I'll execute myself if I get up on a roof. But if you're a roofer who's helping me think through the process, you're the one I'm going to go to.
Well, and it's an abundance mindset. If you have an abundance mindset, then you're not going to be worried that if you give it away, that you're not going to have it. When I first started practicing law, I really was brand new, and there was a guy down the hall, and he kept referring work to me. He kept giving me work, and I really appreciated it, And then finally I said, like, "Hey, Dave, don't you worry that, that I'm going to take work from you?" And he's like, "Steve, there's enough work for all of us. There's enough money for all of us." And that became my mantra throughout the rest of my career. Like, okay, that is the right way to look at it. So that's just what you said. I think that's what works, and people can sense it if that's what you're talking about, and that's the way you are with your world.
Well, Steve, we are both excited about these topics. I think we could probably sit here and just riff on this for a while.
For sure.
And that's why we're going to be bringing you back. But I'm going to take a moment and tell folks that, number one, thank you for hanging with us. We kept most of our participants through an even
always a good sign.
Our stop time, which is fantastic. But Steve's contact information is there on the screen. And I want to thank you, Steve, for being with us, bringing your expertise today. Also, let folks know that you're going to be joining us again for the next Behind the Sign webinar. That is December 7th. So you will be go ahead and set a calendar right now for that. You're going to be talking us through using social media to grow our businesses, and we look forward to that. I've seen a preview, and you're going to want to tune in. I can promise you that. Also, you can register at thebbb.org/behind the sign to get set up for that webinar. Also, would love to remind you to that today's webinar is recorded. We're going to make that available in a link and an email. And you can find more about BBB events and resources by going to bbb.org. Again, Steve, great spending this hour with you. Thank you in your office, at home, on the road, for joining us today in the webinar. We really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. See you, everybody.